Inovação e propriedade intelectual contribuem de maneira importante para uma economia circular mais responsável e sustentável. Essa tarefa é de todos nós, e para isso apostamos na ABPI. A gestão de Luiz Edgar Montauri Pimenta, à frente da ABPI nos últimos 4 anos, colocou nossa associação na linha de frente dessas transformações. E sócios de nosso escritório contribuíram em comissões importantes. Estamos vibrando com esse congresso, onde esses temas serão debatidos, e continuaremos nessa trilha, contribuindo sempre com a nossa ABPI. Contem conosco.
With our association. Please do count on us.
Inovação e propriedade intelectual contribuem de maneira importante para uma economia circular mais responsável e sustentável. Essa tarefa é de todos nós, e para isso apostamos na ABPI. A gestão de Luiz Edgar Montauri Pimenta, à frente da ABPI nos últimos 4 anos, colocou nossa associação na linha de frente dessas transformações. E sócios de nosso escritório contribuíram em comissões importantes. Estamos vibrando com esse congresso, onde esses temas serão debatidos, e continuaremos nessa trilha, contribuindo sempre com a nossa ABPI. Contem conosco.
extinction. What are you talking about? It's money and fairy tales of economic growth. How dare you?
Ever the time that we can accelerate the circular economy, we really do believe it's now.
Bom dia a todos, bem-vindos ao segundo
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second day of our event. And before we start in our plenary session, let's talk about our solidarity action with the Partners for Education. Through the Education Plus Digital, our organization has distributed over 26,100 tablets for students at public school who had no access to internet and were then not able to attend school. We thank everyone who have contributed, and we invite you to visit our webpage, Parceiros da Educação, Partners for Education. With 30 reais, you allow a student from the public education to have access to internet and therefore have access to education.
Em 1684, Thomas Saver inventou a máquina a vapor e deu assim início à nossa rota para a sociedade de alto consumo em que vivemos hoje. A Revolução Industrial iniciada com essa intenção acelerou crescente e ininterruptamente a nossa capacidade de fabricar bens e produzir serviços cada vez mais sofisticados a partir da energia e dos insumos primários que extraímos da natureza. A natureza foi imaginada como fonte infinita desses materiais, bem como do vapor e depois do petróleo e de todas as outras formas de energia. Está claro agora, porém, que isso não era tão simples quanto parecia e provavelmente nem mesmo desejável. Num sistema de produção em massa, linear e em rápido crescimento, tiramos da natureza matérias-primas que, na verdade, não são infinitas e cuja extração ou transformação pode produzir severos desequilíbrios e até mesmo afetar nossas possibilidades de sobrevivência. Nós geramos energia e produzimos bens e serviços de que precisamos em volumes cada vez maiores. Ao gerar energia nessas proporções, produzimos impactos ao meio ambiente e ao clima. Ao descartarmos as coisas quando estas deixam de ser úteis, poluímos o solo, as águas e o ar. E geramos maiores impactos sobre o equilíbrio natural e sobre o clima. A sociedade global deu-se conta dos riscos e não está conformada com essa situação. A reivindicação é pelo desenvolvimento de uma economia circular em que utilizemos energias sustentáveis e reciclemos tudo como forma de evitar o desperdício e os problemas que ele acarreta. As Nações Unidas aceitaram o desafio de coordenar os esforços globais em prol da sustentabilidade e criaram a Agenda de Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável, que foi abraçada pelos governos da maior parte dos países. As empresas vêm-se hoje obrigadas a contribuir para com esses objetivos, pois o custo reputacional de não fazê-lo é cada vez mais alto, assim como crescem as exigências normativas e legais e as multas a quem não as atende. A agenda empresarial em torno dos objetivos vem na forma de uma agenda de ESG, governança para maior sustentabilidade ambiental e social, que se interliga a outra agenda também resumida numa tríade de letras, GRC, que significam governança, risco e compliance. Essas agendas são totalmente dependentes de inovações rápidas e bem-sucedidas, que transformem toda a nossa produção de bens e serviços em direção à sustentabilidade e nos permitam monitorar a produção do uso ao descarte e recuperar essas informações de maneira confiável a qualquer momento. Onde há inovação, há propriedade intelectual. Por isso, a ABPI convida todos vocês para discutir a contribuição da propriedade intelectual para a construção da economia circular e o atingimento dos 17 Objetivos de Desenvolvimento Sustentável.
Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here with you. First of all, thank you for the organizers to have such a plenary that discusses a very important topic. Thank you for our speakers as well for accepting our invitation. We are very honored to have you in our plenary and in our Congress. It is not every day that we have so many important people joining the same plenary in order to discuss intellectual property. And we have also 3 people from abroad who will highly contribute to our discussion today. And when it comes to circular economy, it is such a pleasure to discuss a topic that is so important currently, but the expression was actually coined in the 60s. However, it is only now that the world is putting the circular economy into practice and is advancing circular economy, because we are now in face of the exhaustion of natural sources, and we are now undergoing serious problems and threats to the future of the planet. Unless we get together to fight against deforestation, pollution, unless we fight against everything that hampers the life in our planet.
Como no filme já foi tudo bem explicado, né?
Won't be able to go any further. So we, as you could see in the video, we have the objective of maintaining the products under use, which is why we have the name circular economy, as well as the regeneration of natural resources, so that we can have a better planet and a better world for the next generation. And this is very much linked to the ESG guidelines that are used in the corporate world, and they're important for the investment sector. And in this sense, circular economy is very important for the ESG agenda. It is an urgent agenda that has to be implemented by us all. And finally, the circular economy is basically based on innovation. And in order to accelerate innovation, we need to use industrial property tools such as patents, because any innovation when it comes to technology needs the reinvestment, and the patent is essential for this purpose. So today in our plenary with distinguished speakers, we are going to be debating this topic. And now I'm going to be reading the bio of our speakers. We're going to start with Hugo Betlin, Chief Purpose Officer at Bravo GRC, and co-founder and chairman at Conscious Capitalism Brazil. He joins boards in several companies. He for more than 40 years at C-level in Brazilian retail industry in companies like GPA, Dicico, Supermercados, Hopi Hari, and Carrefour. Hugo is graduated in business administration and has several specializations in leadership, entrepreneurship, management, circular economy, sustainability, and he's also married and the father of 4 children. And, me too. I have 4 kids. And, this is a tough task, but it's a great one, certainly. Hugo, welcome. But I will go through the curriculum of the other speakers as well, and then we can start the presentations that we're going to have. Fabiana Quiroga, thank you very much for joining us today. Fabiana is an executive with over 20 years of experience in the petrochemical sector. She works in the business sector and circular economy at Braskem as of 2017, where she leads the global strategy of circular economy aimed at developing the recycling chain. She holds a bachelor's degree in law and a graduate degree in labor law. After Fabiana, we are going to listen to David Kellis.
Mercosul, French Guiana, Guyana, and Suriname. Joined the U.S. Foreign and Commercial Service in March 2021. Prior to becoming IP attaché, Mr. Kelly was patent attorney and shareholder in private practice in Denver, Colorado. His practice included patent prosecution and counseling, technology transfer, and intellectual property litigation. He holds degrees in mechanical engineering and business, and graduated from Harvard Law School. Depois vai falar Etienne Santos de Acedo.
Then we will listen to Etienne, who joined INTA on July 1st, 2013. As the CEO, he works with the board of directors and officers to recommend, formulate, and implement policies and programs for the association. Mr. Acedo is responsible for the administrative operation of the association's offices and the supervision of all staff. He's also responsible for the development and administration of the annual budget.
Was head of communication and member of the president's cabinet at the EU IPO. Before joining the EU IPO, he practiced as an attorney in Spain and taught law at the University of Alicante, Spain. Then we have Marco Aleman, who studied law at the Javeriana University, where he also obtained a corporate law certificate. He then obtained a diploma in advanced studies in research at the Alcalá University in Spain, and a PhD in law. Mr. Aleman practiced as an IP attorney from 1991 to 1995. He was then appointed head of the Colombian Industrial Property Office from 95 to 98, and was invited as a fellow visiting researcher at the Max Planck Institute in Munich. He joined the World Intellectual Property Organization, YPO, in Geneva, Switzerland. He currently holds the position of Assistant Director General, leading the IP and innovation ecosystem sector. Finally, our debater, Jorge Avila. I will speak now in Portuguese. Let's see. Jorge Avila, bem conhecido aqui na área de TI, né? Nosso parceiro.
Jorge Avila is widely known in our sector, and he's been working with technology management innovation in IP for over 25 years. He today is the Provost for Technology Extension at the Federal University of the State of Rio de Janeiro, and he chairs innovation and entrepreneur committees for some industries, including in associations, including the ABPI. He's been the head of the Brazilian IP office for 7 years, and he's also been executive director at the Brazilian Innovation Agency and senior director for technology licensing at Qualcomm. George has a PhD degree in public policy, master in business, and a bachelor degree in engineering. So with no further ado, I would like to give the floor to Hugo Betlen, so he will make his presentation.
A todos, é grande prazer. Obrigado pela ABPI pelo convite.
Thank you for the invitation. It is a great pleasure to be here with international speakers. I will ask him permission to speak in Portuguese. The video was very well produced, and as a link, talking about ESG and going back 200 years and talking about capitalism, one of the greatest human innovations, creativity. We are here because of internet and then Zoom, and this is thanks to capitalism. If we're healthy today, is because we have been vaccinated because of a fantastic development and how fast the pharmaceutical companies have developed vaccinations and life expectancy, reduction poverty in the last decades since the wealth of nations has been written. Or are we facing a threat to the planet? Unfortunately, the answer is also yes. Maximizing results, seeking accumulation, and extracting natural resources as if they were endless, and us consuming more and more. The situation is on the verge of destroying the planet, generating also mental health issues to the populations. But us in conscious capitalism believe that this should be a balanced reinvention of what is good from capitalism and taking away what's negative from this capitalism, which is only focused on the shareholder. Since 2003 in the US and since 2008 in Brazil, to turn investments in Brazil, multiplying more human pillars, more ethical pillars to reduce inequalities. They're huge. All the inequalities that we see today in the corporate world. So that old model, wild capitalism turned to the shareholder, whose only social responsibility is to maximize profit to shareholders, very often on the back of suffering of other stakeholders, cannot continue to work. But we believe that business is good when business creates value, ethical value, because that is based on good exchange and is heroic because it removes poverty and generates property. But this means 4 pillars: greater purpose, equality between stakeholders, guaranteeing perpetuity, and having a conscious leader looking after people, and consequently together we can look after our planet. But anyway, what does purpose mean is to answer the following question: what's the pain in society and how our business is going to solve it, and then aligning our strategic vision and how we make money and not how much money we make, and generate positive social impact, and responding to what difference does our business make on society. But all this depends on leadership, conscious leader. As Peter Drucker says, only 3 things happen naturally without leadership: friction, confusion, and low performance. But what kind of leadership do we need? A conscious leadership that's not just peace and love, do whatever you want, deliver results whenever you want and show up to work whenever you want. A conscious leadership is capacity to engage people to reach results aligned with purpose. Conscious leaders place purpose first, always acting with integrity. They are determined to find positive solutions for everyone, creating value, thinking in the long term of the choices one makes today. They are sensitive to the culture around, and especially during the pandemic, recognize the importance of revitalizing physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual energy. So that's why we invite all corporate leaders, leave your ego behind. Don't aim at being the biggest, best corporation in the world, using all natural resources, destructing in an unsustainable way our planet. You should be willing to be the best organization in the world that looks after the environment and looks after people. We understand that capitalism can be is still the best way of generating prosperity and including people socially. But for that purpose, everyone should have equal opportunities. And then we talk about ESG, environment, social responsibility, and governance. But to talk about ESG, we cannot practice capitalism that's focused only on shareholders. If I'm focused on that, profiting on other people's pains, I will not be looking after the social issues. You should be a capitalist that looks after all stakeholders. And what is ESG? Is to keep the balance between protecting the environment and guaranteeing social progress, generating positive results based on ethics and transparency. It's not or, it's and. As the video showed, we believe in the conscious leadership, and ESG, G should come first, should be GSE. And only through governance, with transparent and ethic management, that you're going to take sustainable, real initiatives inside the company and outside the company, so that together we look after planet, because our very life depends on this. If business has to do with people, we need three main things to survive. We need drinking water, healthy food, and breathable air. Starting with governance is essential. And this is not going to tolerate activities in social responsibility and the environment that is just for show. So that's why it's important that we retake the theme governance as a driver for innovation, to leave a linear economy and go into a circular economy. Is it the lack of ESG practiced by people, or is it a lack of awareness? We believe that to practice the 17 of the sustainable goals for the UN 2030 agenda, you need to have more awareness from people, especially from corporate leaders, because that's the only way we're effectively, through corporations, be able to take actions to reduce poverty, to promote prosperity and well-being to everyone, protect the environment, as well as facing climate change. One of the development goals is number 16. We sometimes forget. We think this is a government issue, but Antonio Guterres, General Secretary of the UN, says no, that number 16 creates a framework to inspire corporations to embrace a transformational governance, and that reinforces multilateralism and reinforces the social contract. Recently, an article from the Financial Times stated it should be ESGD because democracy is under threat. And then if we don't look after democracy, there won't be any business. Another goal that is essential that we should be bringing here is number 17, partnerships and ways of implementation. The circular economy cannot be done on your own. There's no point my corporation, my organization solve problems. This is a continuous commitment to cooperation between corporations and all stakeholders involving employees, communities, government, NGOs, shareholders, and investments. So it is a great positive impact network between society, corporations, and government. That's why it should be as sustainable as possible, as soon as possible, and as simple as possible. Because we cannot forget that businesses are at the same time are the creators of sustainability, but also the curators and promoters of sustainable elements. We talk about innovation. Einstein said there's nothing more rational than to try and solve in the same state of mind as they were created. And for this, only innovation can solve it. We have a main problem, an economic system that awards maximizing wealth in detriment of well-being cannot be continued to work. But the complaint list is full. Let's go to the list of solutions. The future is for all of us. We have to build a future where everyone can work with dignity, look after themselves and their dear ones, and that on a planet that is healthy and all economies effectively advance. Peter, thank you so much. Thank you, especially for sticking to your time. So without further ado, I will give the floor to Fabiana, who is going to make her presentation. Hello, good morning, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here to talk about such a relevant topic, which is the circular economy. Thank you so much, ABPI, for the invitation. I hope you can see my presentation on the screen. Yes, apparently yes. I brought some slides for guidance. So as very well put by Hugo and also the video, I brought us the current scenario. Chemistry and plastic is everywhere. The petrochemical industry produces feedstocks for the plastic chain and for a number of other chains, and plastic has brought a number of advances for society. Plastic is light, so there's less emissions. It brought a democracy and use of a number of products. It extends the life of food, but non-conscious, I'm sorry. Go right ahead. Thank you so much for your patience. We are fixing a technical glitch. Thank you for your patience. Yes, go right ahead. I'm sorry for this. So I was talking about the importance of plastic in today's scenario, and our main challenge when it comes to waste management, which is not adequate, as well as fighting climate change, as well said by Hugo in the video, we need to have a positive impact on society in all sectors, including industry need to take measures to address the two main problems, which is the plastic waste management as well as climate change. In this way, Brascan is committed, established a commitment to implement a carbon neutral circular economy. So how do we go about it? Here, the first and second generations where Brascan should be in the linear process where we would be producing feedstock and products for the generation. When we think in a circular way, we go all the way back into the beginning, feedstock and renewable energy, extending our renewable energy mix, bringing solutions that is going to replace fossil feedstock and then operate the whole chain for the circle. So everything that is plastic waste goes back as feedstock through mechanical recycling, which is transforming plastic waste into a new plastic with recycled content, or by chemical recycle. There we go back to the first generation, turning the waste into feedstock, replacing naphtha, fossil naphtha for a circular naphtha. But for both, innovation is essential for us to get to our goal. We have an ambitious goal to extend our portfolio with recycling for 300 million tons, 1 million tons in 2030, and remove 1.5 million tons of plastic waste that should be burned or left into the environment. Reach carbon neutrality until 2050 with a reduction of 15% until 2030. What's the way to get there? When it comes to a reduction of emissions and reaching carbon neutrality, are three important pillars. The first one, reducing emissions. We have a great focus on a more renewable energy mix. We have both solar and wind energy. Here we have development of technology to reduce emissions. When we want to offset emissions, we have developed solutions using renewable feedstocks with a concern to using less resources, even renewable resources. We have been developing, we have I'm Green polyethylene, which is produced with sugarcane, as well as Meg Verde, which is the feedstock for our PET bottles, that where sugar is used. With a partnership with a Danish company, we have advanced to bring the solution to Brazil, which is renewable sugar-based feedstock. In terms of emission capture, the efforts in R&D are critical, transforming what we emit in CO2 in new chemicals. We have a partnership with the University of Illinois in Chicago. As said by Hugo, partnership, development, and cooperation is critical. All the initiatives I am going to show, there's always a partner, either a recycling partner, academia, universities, technology licensing organizations to get to our objectives. In our I'm Green portfolio with renewable and recycled content, a number of applications, and here to improve the quality of our products, we have used all the knowledge in terms of resins and Brascan to leverage the quality of the recycled product. When we look at addressing plastic waste, this is something that should be we have to have initiatives that look into the cycle as a whole, from the design of the product, thinking of the circularity of a product at the end of a life, going back and recycling, reducing the various types of materials, so that at the end of the useful life, the material goes back into the production chain. Here, for example, efficiency, reducing waste, implementing more efficient processes to have less impact in production, conscious use or consumption. You have to be conscious when using. We need to tackle society and consumer towards this reflection. Educatu is an NGO that seeks, through a digital platform, bringing information to sustainability and adequate consumption and waste. When it comes to waste collection, we have a challenge. Here we have a very important social. We have Surmise, which is a program for garbage collectors to bring more efficiency in the process, and also bringing income for these people who are very important in the production side. This bringing technology innovation to improve collection and separation of materials. And finally, the new cycle, mechanical and chemical recycling, as I mentioned. And to develop these two ways of recycling, we have within innovation and technology, we have a platform dedicated to recycling. This is a very important point. When we heard the importance of corporate leadership looking into this path, we assess within the company this issue. This issue is so relevant for Braskem, for our leadership, ESG, sustainability, and everything that revolves around recycling is priority for our CEO. And this brings a lot of development for the whole corporation, the whole organization. Within innovation, this area was created for mechanical recycling to address the main pains, to leverage recycle applications, reducing smell, increasing quality, which is produced in a mechanical way. You wash, you have the chemical reaction, and then at the same time, developing new technologies to turn the waste into new feedstock. And we work in two ways. In the short term, the pyrolysis process, which is a thermal reaction, transforming into pyrolysis oil that we manage to distill and have the same characteristics of naphtha. And in the long term, looking into disruptive technologies to turn plastic into monomers, amines, proteins, simplifying the whole process. And then here I'd like to stress two investments, two advances, one in terms of mechanical recycling and the other in chemical recycling. When it comes to mechanical recycling, to enhance quality, we invest 67 million reais in a new plant with a recycling partner to produce 14 million tons of high quality resins. And on the other side, we have foreign and Brazilian technology for an industrial arrangement to increase the quality of the material. And then when we look at advanced recycling, which is chemical recycling, that has an incredible technology. Pyrolysis is a well-known technology when it comes to fuel oil production. The main objective of Braskem is to transform or improve the technology in order to really transform it into feedstock and a naphtha of better quality for the production process. And for this, we have a partnership with Senai, the Federal University, and the Carioca catalyzers, so that the pyrolysis process has better performance to produce more naphtha and less heavy oil, and this way bring more efficiency, not just technical, but also economic efficiency for the production process. And when you talk about advanced recycling, chemical recycling, in addition to replacing fossil naphtha for a circular naphtha, in the whole process use the same assets. So how do you sell the process? You sell it through a certification. So there is going to be an entry of circular feedstock, and the ISCC is an international certification for our product, stating that it has recycled content, and then this attains the objectives of using recycling material in its solution to society. To really reach a circular economy, partnership, collaboration, innovation have to work hand in hand so we can get to our goals. Thank you so much, and I'm available for whatever questions you may have at the end of the panel. Sam, thank you so much.
É bom, né? Nós conhecemos.
Thank you, Fabiana. Very interesting to know more about Braskem's initiatives. This is very innovative and in line with our discussions. So with no further ado, actually, thank you very much for respecting the time. And now I'd like to give the floor to David Kennis.
Bom dia a todos. Queria agradecer à ABPI e também aos outros panelistas.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, ABPI, as well as the other speakers for giving me the opportunity. Recently, I was talking to someone in Portuguese, and the person said, you speak Portuguese very well, but you never speak as a Brazilian. So to avoid any misunderstandings, I'll be speaking English.
Isaac Newton, who gave us the law of inertia, which is that a body at rest will stay at rest and a body in motion will stay in motion unless it is acted upon by an outside force. Although Newton was thinking of falling apples and other physical objects being acted upon by physical forces, gravity, friction, etc., I believe that the first law of motion also applies to other paradigms, including economics. Just like one of Newton's objects, a linear economy will continue to move linearly unless and until it is acted upon by an outside force. And in fact, we do see many outside forces imposing shocks on the economy. These include natural disasters, pandemics, the bursting of economic bubbles, and so forth. Generally speaking, however, these outside forces are such that they tend to affect the speed or size of the economy, but not its nature. It's also relevant to point out that when a force is applied on an object, the mass of the object, the magnitude of the force, and the duration over which the force is applied are all relevant to determining how much, if at all, the force will change the trajectory of the object. The trajectory of a very massive object, like our world linear economy, can only be changed by a very large force or by a series of smaller forces applied consistently in the same direction over a long period of time. Now, innovation is one kind of force that can act on the economy, and we've seen this time and time again. Others have already spoken about it, but inventions such as the steam engine, the telegraph, the light bulb, the airplane, the transistor, the internet, all had a major impact on the economy. Generally speaking, these inventions facilitated economic activity and therefore contributed to economic growth. They did not, however, act in a concerted way to change our linear economy into a circular economy. I believe that innovation is a necessary ingredient to bend a linear economy into a circular economy. Of course, as you've heard from my fellow panelists already, innovation, while necessary, is not the only thing needed to achieve a circular economy. Nor is a single point of innovation sufficient to change our economic trajectory. There will need to be many innovations covering many aspects of a circular economy to deliver the kind of sustained force that will be necessary to achieve lasting change. As just one example, 3D printing has the potential to reduce waste by using only exactly the amount of material needed to manufacture a product. But innovation is needed to make 3D printers accessible and affordable, to enable 3D printers to make a wider variety of parts out of a wider variety of materials, and to design objects for additive manufacturing. Of course, even with all of these innovations, we would not have a circular economy. Many more innovations in many more areas are needed. And so as you can see in this slide, every aspect of the economy needs to be acted upon by innovation in order to bend the trajectory of the linear economy into a circular economy. So the question becomes, how do we incentivize such innovation? And the answer to that question depends, of course, on who is asking it. From the USPTO's perspective, we seek to incentivize innovation in the ESG space in 3 ways. First, through the Patents for Humanity program, an awards competition recognizing innovators who use game-changing technology to meet global humanitarian challenges. Second, by facilitating accelerated examination for particular technologies. And third, by fulfilling the basic function of granting patent rights. While not specifically focused on incentivizing innovation for a circular economy, the Patents for Humanity program does just that by expanding public awareness of innovative technologies in categories including public health and household energy, among others. For example, in 2020, New Generator won the award for inventing a machine that recovers nutrients, energy, and water from human waste. Professor Daniel Ye, pictured here, of the University of South Florida, leader of the team that invented the device, said, quote, "We need to think of waste not as waste, but as a recurring, renewable resource that can help us create a circular economy where we deal with the problem, recycle everything, and provide a renewable resource to communities," end quote. By elevating such innovative ways of thinking and innovative solutions to challenging problems, USPTO's Patents for Humanity program incentivizes innovation for a circular economy. Next, the USPTO also incentivizes innovation by offering free accelerated examination for applications directed to inventions that improve environmental quality or relate to the development or conservation of energy resources. To obtain accelerated examination, applicants need to file a petition to make special, as outlined in section 708.02a of the Manual of Patent Examining Procedure. A 2016 study found that just a 2-year delay in the granting of a startup's patent application has the same negative effect on the startup's growth and success as outright rejection of a patent application. And so accelerated examination provides an important tool for avoiding such delays, allowing a startup or anyone else to obtain a patent as quickly as possible and to protect their innovative ideas. By facilitating accelerated examination for applications in these categories, the USPTO increases the likelihood that startups with innovative ideas in the ESG space will remain viable and continue to innovate, thus helping to achieve a circular economy. Perhaps the USPTO's most important activity in terms of incentivizing innovation is one of its most basic functions, that of granting patent rights. The exchange of exclusive rights for public disclosure of information provides the same incentive to innovate in the direction of a circular economy as it does in other areas of innovation. Just last week, I participated in a call with a US startup interested in doing business in Brazil. The individuals with whom we were speaking said that one of the first questions they are asked by potential investors is, what is your strategy for protecting your intellectual property? Granting patent rights helps to ensure that startups can protect their innovative ideas, increase their chances of obtaining needed investments, and become viable companies able to convert innovative ideas into reality. Of course, trademarks also assist in allowing this process to occur by allowing companies to build a brand that consumers trust and are willing to use going forward. As the benefits of a circular economy become more apparent and society becomes more concerned with the negative aspects of a linear economy, we can expect more and more innovation, with the patent system providing the safeguards necessary to justify investment in research, development, and commercialization. This chart provides one window into the progress of innovation for a circular economy. The chart, which reflects only data for USPTO, shows the number of applications published in purple and the number of patents granted in orange that have been tagged with cooperative patent classification Y02. Now, it's important to note that Y02 is not an actual class. It is only used to tag cross-sectional technologies or applications for mitigation or adaptation against climate change. Indeed, there is no class that covers all innovations relevant to a circular economy, but this data provides a useful perspective. As shown in the chart, there has been a general upward trend since 2010 in both patent applications filed and patents granted in this class. Moreover, the patent grant numbers reflect an increase from about 6% of total patents granted by the USPTO in 2010 to between 9 and 10% of total patents granted by USPTO in the 2019 to 2020 timeframe. This data showed that tens of thousands of inventors are relying on the patent system to protect their innovations, which in turn opens the door for these technologies to be manufactured, licensed, and otherwise brought to bear to help bend the economy into a circular trajectory. In closing, let me highlight that USPTO is also leading by example. Last year, USPTO generated zero landfill waste, donated more than 2,500 items for reuse, and introduced print management software to minimize printing waste. USPTO also reduced energy consumption by more than 10% since 2019, achieved a reduction in carbon emissions by increasing telework. And USPTO has found that it makes financial sense to consider the environment. It has reduced operating costs by using LED lights and hybrid vehicles, sold surplus furniture, thus increasing cash inflow rather than throwing it away, and saved on rent by reducing office footprint. In sum, innovation will be key to the goal of bending a linear economy into a circular one, and USPTO and other intellectual property offices can play a key role in incentivizing that innovation. Obrigado pela atenção e agora passo a palavra para Etienne.
Obrigado, David. Etienne, vou passar diretamente para você.
Thank you, David. Etienne, you have the floor. Thank you, Peter. I will now share my screen, but I don't know if you can see my presentation. Can you see it? Yes.
Agora, bom dia. Muito grato a
So, good morning. Thank you, ABPI, for the invitation.
Vou falar em inglês.
I will speak in English, but before that, I would like to make a short summary in Portuguese. Being green is no longer an option. Most brands currently give a priority to recycling as an important part of their operation. ESG became a key factor and a key value for most brands and companies. And this is because that's what the clients are looking for, the consumers are looking for. So today, the companies are not so much, actually, the consumers, they don't trust so much the brand based on the price, but much more based on the purpose. And they have, for this sense, the ESG plays a critical role for the brand, for the trusting of a brand. So in order to trust a brand, it's very important for the consumers to understand what the values of the brand is. The global community of intellectual property needs to deal with the questions that have a relation with this topic. And one of them is the anti-IP filling and the counterfeit. Today, I'll be talking about how brands and trademarks have evolved in the society and what does that mean for the practitioners.
And I would like to start with what has been the traditional role of brands and trademarks in society. So, of course, brands and trademarks in general enable quick, confident, and safe purchasing decisions. According to the Edelman Trust Barometer from 2020, 70% of consumers globally say that trust in brands is now more important than ever before. And what is very interesting, and you can see it here on the screen, 53% of consumers say that trusting a brand is now the second most important purchasing factor, just second to price. Now, in addition to that, we know that brands and trademarks in general contribute to GDP. This is the result of several studies that have been performed by the US Department of Commerce back in 2016, EU IPO in 2019, and INTA both in 2017 and 2019. And we're trying to assess, following the same methodology, what is the impact of IP-intensive industries on GDP. As you can see, it ranges from, let's say, 38-42% for United States and Europe to an average of 15-20% in Latin America, and even more disparity in the ASEAN community, ranging from 17 to 50%. But in addition to that, IP-intensive industries, and therefore brands, trademarks, and IP in general, provide jobs. As you can see, they're providing up to 45 million jobs in United States only, or around 30% of the total labor market. It's about 46 million jobs in Europe, so 28 to 38%. And then Latin America is between 8 to 26% and ASEAN 13 to 29%. The difference here is, as you can see on screen, we looked at several countries and the situation per country may vary a lot. Now, as a last element that is definitely important, brands and trademarks in general fuel international trade. And here you can see how trademark intensive industries have a huge impact on the exports that are performed by the different regions all over the world. Now, that has been, let's say, the traditional role of brands and trademarks. But let's talk about the expanded role of brands and trademarks in society. And for that, we need to put purpose before profit. As we see nowadays, consumers expect brands to play a key role in addressing social and environmental issues. As you can see on screen, according to a study that was performed by INTA in 2019 on the behavior of Gen Zers with regard to brands and counterfeited products, up to 85% of Gen Zers consumers believe that brands should aim to do good in the world. And what is even more interesting is that according to the 2020 Edelman Trust Barometer, 80% of consumers say their trust is earned by brands' approach to solving society's problems. And I'm insisting on that number because just a year before, Edelman performed the same survey and the number was only at 69%. So in 1 year, we moved from 69 to 80%. Just imagine what that number could be in 2021 following a pandemic. But in addition to that, goals grow broader. And of course, we are always talking about climate change, we're talking about environment, but there are definitely other issues we should be talking about. In 2020, a study from the IBM Institute for Business Value showed that 1/3 of global consumers, from Gen Zers to baby boomers, so from people age 18 to 73, would abandon their favorite brand if it doesn't align with their personal values. So that means that trust, sustainability, authenticity, and transparency are becoming more and more important. And just one recent example of all those issues has to do with racial injustice. And as you can see here, 60% of consumers feel that brands must take a stand on racial injustice, and that 80% of them say that taking a stand on racial injustice gains brand trust. And last but not least, when we're talking about these issues, we need to think as well about the market and the size of the market. And calls are definitely growing louder. We have 3.2 billion of the world's population using social media, and 80% of Gen Zers' purchases are influenced by social media, which, by the way, between Gen Zers and millennials, we are at a very large majority of consumers today and what will be the consumers of tomorrow. So as a consequence of that, we need to think as well about the IP community, and particularly we need to think about what is the role of brand councils and whether there is any kind of expanded role for them. Well, indeed, the IP industry is changing. IP offices must change to continue serving their users. In-house legal teams need to change, and also outside counsels need to change to keep their clients and to continue adding value to businesses. Back in 2020, INTA released 3 think tanks looking at what is the future of an IP office, what is the future of an in-house department, and what is the future of an IP law firm. The idea behind those think tanks was to really look at what is the evolution of the intellectual property and how should professionals adapt themselves. Well, the adaptation is that we need to shift from a specialist to a more generalist role, an active role in companies' ESG agenda. And perhaps something that some of us might not always have been thinking about is that when we talk about ESG, it's also talking about respect for others. And this is where IP lawyers might have a role to play. And this is about being nice. Effective brand counsel is also thinking about how to protect the brand and IP from a business perspective, and this can form part of the ESG agenda. If you think about it, in the age of social media, enforcing brand rights has shifted from being a private issue to becoming a public domain issue that is on all media and definitely on social media. So here you have a cease and desist letter from a global brewery, Anheuser-Busch, who definitely works hard to protect their IP. They used to have, and they still have, a very well-known brand, which is called Dilly Dilly, which is a nonsensical catchphrase that became popular in the US, thanks to Bud Light. In December 2017, a small Minneapolis brewery decided to use Dilly Dilly to launch their new IPA. And Anheuser-Busch responded to that in a very nice, friendly, but also very strong way. The company's legal team crafted a cease and desist letter that was drafted in Old English, mimicking the medieval theme of the ad campaign. A town crier visited the brewery and announced their light-hearted demands from a scroll, but they also offered the brewery 2 tickets to the 2018 Super Bowl. This is a different way of doing IP. This is a way of being extremely effective from a legal perspective, but being even more effective from a PR perspective. So perhaps something to think about. And last but not least, since we talk about ESG, we need to talk about IP perception. And here, unfortunately, we continue facing a very strong anti-IP sentiment. And this is the result of misunderstanding from consumers, but also from policymakers regarding the value of IP. And often we all hear that IP serves only as a means for companies to unfairly inflate their shareholders' wealth at the expense of consumers. Well, there's definitely work for us here. We need to counter this anti-IP sentiment, and we also need to explain that counterfeiting endangers public health as we've seen very recently, steals from business and workers, drains government revenues, supports organized crime, and diminishes consumer trust, undermining the brand promise and the brand's ESG agenda. So as a last remark, I would say that on that specific issue of anti-IP sentiment and as part of ESG efforts, the IP community should definitely work together in educating consumers and policymakers on the positive role that brands play for society. With that, I would like to thank you for your attention. And I would like to mention in Portuguese que para as gerações que nos seguem, nós...
And for the future generations, the IP global community can contribute so that you have a positive legacy of our brands, improving the society for all. Thank you very much.
Obrigado, Etienne. Foi uma apresentação.
Thank you so much, Etienne. Great presentation. With a call, not in an aggressive tone, but in a public relations tone. So I like the idea and I'll try and apply it myself. Without further ado, I'd like to now give the floor to...
Many thanks, Peter. I was just trying to share the screen in the meantime, but probably we get...
Michael.
I got it already, so many thanks for that. Jorge, for giving me that chance. I don't know if you can confirm that you see the screen now. Would you mind to confirm? Okay, good.
You might to change the display up here.
Where
you see display setting?
Yeah, let me use check swap. Is done?
Not yet. Yes, now.
Now it's
Thank
okay.
you.
Very good. Thank you. So thanks to Peter and thanks to ABPI for this kind invitation that have been made to me and to the organization to participate today in this panel. George Avila for the whole coordination of the panel. I'm really happy to be here with you, the different panel members and participants. In these 12 minutes that we have to share a few ideas on the role of innovation and intellectual property in the circular economy, allow me to start with a few very general information that in my view quite describe the impact of this very new subject in the economy in general, but in the IP field in particular. If you take a look of what happened with this very new concept, you will immediately realize that before the year 2000, there was almost no reference to circular economy. There were, without any doubt, a lot of reference to environmental technology, even to clean technology, and to green technology without doubt, but not to circular economy. Circular economy is a concept that starts, I would say, after the year 2000, but particularly after 2010, there is a very regular reference to this concept of circular economy in different fields, in the economic literature, in the legal literature, and also in the IP literature. So if we go into the concept that have been described by any of those that precede me in making the presentation, and because of that, I will not get into the detail, you immediately realize that using less of those resources and reducing the waste that is produced is the overall goal of the whole circular economy. And what we are planning to do in my presentation is to share a few ideas about the role of IP in that very specific process. Allow me to escape from this general presentation and to get into the relevance of a number of actors in the circular economy. Let me mention and let me share with you some of those studies that have highlighted the relevance of circular economy in the different regions. For example, in the European Commission recently estimated that circular economy type economic transactions can create 600 billion euros annual economic gains, what describe the impact of this field in the economy. And because of that, since 2008, a number of countries and a number of regions, China in 2008 to name one, but the European Union in a regional approach, have to name a second one, have been doing very important steps in adopting policies to improve the capacity of the economy from benefiting from this concept. And IP, of course, follow that very specific, this very specific trend. In the 2030 SDG agenda that was mentioned by Hugo in his very clear call for global leadership in this area, 17 sustainable development goals have been identified. And without any doubt, the 17 in particular propose a balance in between three dimensions of sustainable development: the economic, the social, and the environmental development, and highlight how social and economic development depends on sustainability. And this is probably one of the key concepts of the circular economy, sustainability. And when you read economic literature and when you read legal literature, you will identify that there are different approaches about the role of sustainability in the circular economy. You see a number of authors that describe the circular economy as an important element of sustainable development. But you have a number, very important group of actors that consider circularity as absolutely necessarily for sustaining economic output. So this relationship, you can go in from those that consider it is relevant to those that consider it is indispensable. Well, it is not then very strange that two key actors in the design of policies and in taking concrete actions in this area is then the private sector. And in the private sector, you have two very market actors in the circular economy. First, incumbents that are those already established. And incumbents, although in many occasions have some difficulty in adapting to new technologies, including green technologies, and in particular, those that goes very, very directly in line with the circular economy, because they are already established and because a number of investments have been made for years in whatever production change they have been put in place. The reality is that because of their size, they are normally the ones taking the risk of huge investments. And they are normally the ones that have the chances to do those risk investments because of the size of the company. And on the other side, there are the entrants, small and medium size, probably more dynamic, and in many occasions, those able to come with breakthrough technologies that create a revolution in different fields of technology. But in many occasions, their size and the financial capabilities are not in favor of doing much more of what they can do. That's why there is a call for all actors together to innovate into a mechanism of innovation in which all benefit, both from incumbents and entrants, are considered to produce the better possible outcome on innovation in these fields. But let's take a look to the patent filing applications in technologies related to circular economy. You will see that since the 70s, a number of patent applications have been made in areas like recycling or waste management and closing loops, among others. And you can see immediately in the graphic how this progress in total number of patent applications have been in a very important increase since 1970 until nowadays. And these, with, as you can imagine, with few reductions in certain areas in the year 2000 and 2021, but this trend of increase continue. This is the relationship in between clean technologies, patent applications in general, and circular economy in particular, that are a very important component of the overall clean tech patent applications. And in the right side, you have the same relationship related to the Brazilian market that more or less follow the international trends that we are describing in the left side of this slide. And finally, if you take this slide, you will immediately realize some patterns in between worldwide patent applications in circular economy patent families and Brazilian applications. And before the year 2000, circular economy tech were more or less about 40–50% of the total number of patent files. But since then, there is a slight decline in the way circular economy applications and clean technologies are filed. And this is an important trend that needs to be revised, because we need, from the policy perspective, to put all the effort in getting the best we can get from technology for this purpose of having a world in which natural resources consumption is reduced and waste is also reduced. Let me go briefly about some of the WIPO initiatives in this regard that can go from the WIPO Green project, that is a platform that get together both offering those that offer technology and demander of technology, and to be sure that those green technologies are used for the benefit of society at large. Many other projects, as a very recent one, which the first experience comes from this year, that is having management of IP clinic with small and medium-sized enterprises that own green technology, green technology in general, but which are looking forward to incorporate an IP component into the policies, and particularly small and medium-sized enterprises that can benefit from this WIPO support. And all the projects in which the organization are directly involved or leading, as is the case of the launch Solar Impulse Efficient Solution label, and all the projects of support to small and medium size, like is this the example of Be Circular, in which we highlight the importance of sustainable innovation created by small and medium-sized enterprises. Now, it is not very simple for IP to accommodate.
Marco, sorry to interrupt. We have less than a minute. Sorry.
That's perfect. That's perfect. And that's perfectly fine, because that was the last slide. For the IP system to accommodate into the challenges that pose this circular economy, there are a number that are quite important. For example, in the case of repay or remanufacture of products, in a number of cases, there are considerations of IP that requires a new thinking and probably new tools that accommodate to this new reality. Thank you, and the floor is back to organizers.
Thank you, Marco. Jorge. Vamos em
Eu
frente.
vou ser bastante rápido e, na verdade, eu vou endereçar tema que o
Very quick. Hugo touched upon a topic that was very dear to me. I think it's important to talk about how the partnership can be fostered by associations and organizations so that we can have a circular economy. You mentioned a brand committee. So how do you share it with your associates?
Muito obrigado, Jorge. Vou responder
Thank you, Jorge. I will speak in English.
INTA to ESG is a very serious one. And in fact, as part of our new strategic plan 2022-2025, one of the 3 strategic pillars is making a better society through brands. And that means ESG, it means diversity, equity, inclusion, it means transparency, authenticity, consumer trust, and it means also support to SMEs and entrepreneurs globally. So how does that translate into the activities of the association? You name committee work. So we have a Brand for a Better Society committee, but we also have a pro bono clearinghouse committee to help entrepreneurs and SMEs. We also have the Indigenous Rights Committee. We have the Geographical Indications Committee. And last but not least, the Emerging Issues Committee is always looking at the impact that might have on legislation. But in addition to that, we put 2 presidential task forces, one on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the other one on how to be an IP all-star practitioner, going back to the idea of IP councils evolving as well. We've also completely revamped the INTA Foundation, and there is more to come in early September, where the foundation is going to be focused on DEI. And last but not least, we do cooperate with other organizations like ABPI, with WIPO through WIPO Green, and we permanently incorporate those topics into our programming and into the educational offering to our members. So hopefully I've answered your question, George.
Okay, thank you very much, Etienne. You sure did. Eu acho que é uma boa ideia que a gente tente compartilhar as melhores
I think this is a great idea. We have to share good practices when it comes to promoting ESG, promoting a agenda of responsibility. And this is very important to include this in the communication of all companies. And David, what's your impression on how the USPTO manages the partnerships with other organizations to promote the ESG agenda?
That's a good question, George. And I think USPTO has its strongest opportunity to promote innovation in the ESG space, I think, is not so much through partnerships with other companies, explicit partnerships, but rather through serving those companies in the form of granting and registering intellectual property rights. And of course, also through award programs such as the Patents for Humanity program that I spoke about, which allows companies who do innovate in these spaces that are so important, for example, to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, allows these companies to be recognized and to have public awareness about these companies raised. And I believe that by through these actions, granting of awards, but also helping companies protect their intellectual property rights, these companies are then empowered to go forth and help society benefit, I should say, from their innovative ideas in the ESG space.
Okay, thank you, David. When I was the president of ABPI, the Brazilian PTO, I could testimony the efforts of the USPTO to share its experience with other patent offices. And so I think this is a good idea that you also exchange your experience with ESG promotion among the various IP institutions all over the world. I would move to Fabiana. Fabiana, eu vi que vocês estabeleceram como visão.
I see you intended to be an example, a role model when it comes to protecting and dealing with the ODS agenda. And it goes through an active partnership with the industry through the granting of patent rights and the partnership with other companies.
Colaboração para
Yeah,
ser
Jorge, the collaboration is key in order to have a circular economy. You cannot have a circular economy unless you have all companies and brands contributing with their skills and knowledge. And that's how we operate at Braskem, to the bottom and in all senses, and also looking down as well when we work with the cooperatives, recyclers, collectors, and the exchanging of knowledge is key, especially when it comes to the recycling chain. Thank you indeed, Marco.
How do you think WIPO can help PTOs all over the world be more conscious of their role in the promotion of a circular economy?
Thank you. Many thanks, George. In my view, there is a very key role for the organization because our links with PTOs worldwide needs to be used in order to get not only the traditional benefit that IP plays in promoting, for example, innovation, and through innovation improve the innovation ecosystem in the different jurisdiction, or using the trademark to communicate this message that enterprises are communicating to the clients. This is extremely important, but we can do more. We can be one of those platforms to promote a circular economy, and a number of our projects can go in that direction. I give you one example. The full concept of open innovation, in my view, is key for the circular economy, because in the same way we don't want to waste natural resources in the circular economy, we don't want to waste ideas that, if are not used for the one that develop, may be of use of any use for somebody else. So those very key concepts, as the one of open innovation, needs to be part of the language of the organization and needs to be a key priority of our cooperation programs.
Okay, thank you very much, Marco. I think that it's a good idea. Seria muito bom se a gente conseguisse organizar uma vitrine global de patentes.
If we could have a global display for PTOs with their practices being shared for the benefit of a circular economy. And Hugo, can you tell us a bit about how your organization can contribute to the IP community through ABPI associates, so that we can build an agenda in favor of reaching the ODS agenda? Thank you, Jorge. You know, I feel very much in line with all presentations on the topic. I do believe there is a real interest so that we evolve towards a circular economy. At the opening of our plenary, I said that the capitalist model, the traditional capitalist model that aims at maximizing profit, can no longer be this way, because quite often this is made at the expenses of other stakeholders. And this is valid for each one of us when we discuss IP and brands. When we see advantages in buying counterfeit or stolen products, when we do that, we cannot see the chain as a whole, and therefore we have and take advantages at the cost of another person, of another entity. It is important to look for partnerships. In this sense, I would like to invite ABPI to be a partner at our programs, and we have partnerships with several institutions and associations as well. We have a partnership with AKTU, and we can do these partnerships through the leaders. When we talk about raising awareness of people and leaders, the idea is that the businesses mirror their people. So in order to change the businesses, the leaders of the companies need to transform themselves, need to start their very transformation. I'm pretty sure that ABPI will accept your offer for partnership. And to wrap up, I would like just to mention the purpose before profit that was mentioned, and the purpose for profit as well is no longer anymore. We cannot have profit the way we used to have, and I totally agree with your view, Hugo, the way you see ODS. And when I talk about ESG, I talk about governance for social environmental responsibility, because it's very important to have a common understanding. Otherwise, we won't go any further. But I'd like to thank you all and give the floor to Pedro. Thank you very much. And in order to advance the circular economy, we need leadership from government, from companies, and the engagement of the population. The population needs education in order to engage and to contribute to circular economy. And this is a bottleneck that we have. When it comes to INPI, I believe that INPI could think about expanding the green patent. Today, we should not limit it to the environment, but also to the cost, to the causes, to the entire process involved in the circular economy, the social aspects. So the INPI should maybe think about expanding the accelerated examination process for the green patent, because that's an urgent need for the world, and Brazil needs to be part of it. Once again, thank you very much for the panel.
Muito obrigada. Nós seguimos com a nossa programação.
So we now continue with panel 3 and 4 at 11 a.m. And you are invited to join us for our online coffee break. You have the link at the network space and also at the program that you have. Please grab a coffee and meet us at this virtual space. And then we are going to have the table topics at the end of our day. And if you have any difficulties in accessing the presentations, you can watch them later on because they're going to be registered. Thank you.